Ciao,
Ciao,
mi chiamo Eva e tu?
piacenza. Io mi chiamo Mafalda,
Ah, piacere.
piacere.
Com'era la tua famiglia in Italia?
Io sono nato a un paese piccolo piccolo, si chiama Campo di Giove in Abruzzi. E in settembre 26 o 27, non lo so sicuro, 1939. Mia madre è nata in un altro paese vicino al nostro paese di Campo di Giove. Essa era nata, si chiama Canzano, vicino, come Burien in Kent. Mio padre si chiama Luigi Di Paolo. Lui ti deve dire perché stiamo all'America. Perché mio padre, quando era giovane, il padre di lui si chiamava Vincenzo, a lui stava all'America, qui a Seattle. Non lo so che anno è venuta qua, forse 1930 o i 20, dopo la World War One. Non lo so perché è venuta qua a Seattle, non tante persone venivano a West Coast, come si chiama? Tante persone a quei tempi andavano a New York, New Jersey, Boston. E lui, non lo so perché è venuto qua. Qualcuno forse l'ha detto di venire, perché a quei tempi non era facile a venire qua.
Sì.
Ma lui stava qua. Ok, so, è ritornata all'Italia perché aveva lasciato la moglie e un figlio che era mio padre e nata figlia, Lina, si chiamava Angelina, a ritornare a portarla all'America. E durante questo tempo mio padre Luigi, un figlio, era 17-18 anni e l'hanno preso, come si dice, drafted all'Italia e lui non è venuto all'America più. Lui è andato alle armi per l'Italia. Un padre e la moglie, un padre, la madre e la sorella hanno partito per l'America. E, e dopo è stata la guerra per non lo so quanto tempo, 10, 12 anni. Prima che partire all'America, si è maritata. Si è maritata la sposa che teneva, si chiamava Gemma, e ha fatto una figlia, Anna, e lui è andato in the army. Credo che è ritornata un'altra volta perché si è fatta un'altra figlia e un'altra figlia si chiamava Yolanda. In 3 anni con la prima moglie si è morta e ha lasciato 2 figli, Anna e Yolanda. Era durante la guerra. Poi la mamma la moglie, Gemma, ha guardato le 2 figlie. Credo che è ritornata una volta dalla guerra perché ha fatto si è maritata un'altra volta e la seconda volta si è maritata a una dei non paesi di Campo di Giove, ma di Canzano. E si chiamava Margherita. Margherita di Cesare. Questa è la mamma mia. Margherita guardava Anna e Yolanda, dei due figli che tenevano con la prima moglie, che si è morta. Nel 1933 ha fatto la prima figlia, 1936 ha fatto la seconda figlia, 1939 io sono nata con un'altra mamma, quell'altra mamma è morta, ma lui stava ancora la guerra. My dad returned after the war was over, which we all know, in 1945. And he came and he got 3 daughters. But one, I was living with my grandma, my maternal grandma, and the other 2 were with their other grandma. And what he did when he returned from the army, he married for the 3rd time, and he married my mother's younger sister, 13 years apart. Anyway, at that time, like I said, his father was already here in the United States, in Seattle, and he sent for him. In those days, prior to the war, people could come to the United States. I don't know if you know the history that well, but they would come and find work anywhere. They would, because there wasn't much going on there. People were starving, basically. So they would go to work America, they would go to work. Many people went to Argentina, Sao Paulo, and Australia, Canada. But we were able to come here because his dad was here. Okay. On my grandmother's side, my mother's dad, Giuseppe was his name, he had 11 kids, 1 being my mother. A set of twins died, and my mother died, so there would be 3 dead and 8 still living at the time. He would come to area Philadelphia or Boston and work. He crossed the Atlantic 7 times. Go back home, have another kid. That's why you live in kids. And last time he wanted to bring all his family back to the U.S. They put a quota. You couldn't come unless you had a family or somebody to sponsor you, to be responsible for you, because the U.S. didn't want you to live off of them. Mm-hmm. Okay. But he didn't have anybody, so there was nobody that could send for him. So life changed. And he never was able to bring his family here. And he had been working here all those years. He's the one that taught me, when he knew we had to leave to come to the U.S., he was trying to teach me how to speak English. He would take me to school in the morning and he'd say, nose, eyes, mouth. He would try to teach me, and he says, you're going to live in a suburb. But no, I don't want to live in a suburb. I want to live in a city. Like, because we lived in the suburb, we had no idea in those days what city or suburb was. We never saw it. We had no TV, no newspapers. We didn't have hardly anybody had a radio. You just knew what people would say, hearsay. That's about all. And not like today where you could just look up any place in the world. You didn't know. All we heard about the war and what was going on in Germany, it was from what people would say to you, what they would bring back, and horrible stories. I would be next to older people, listening to them talk. They figured I didn't understand what they were saying, but I understood what they were saying. And I was petrified what they were saying. They were saying they're pulling their nails right off of their fingers, the people that they were Auschwitz, they were burning. And I thought, oh, they're making that up. And it's not real, but everything was real. but we didn't know what was going on in another country. So when we were supposed to come to America, we thought this was supposed to be in the country that you find gold on the streets, pick it off the trees. Anyway, had no idea, did not speak the language. Did not read, or I mean, did not read English. We went to school there. But anyway, he finally got enough. He came back. He came here to the U.S. first. I think it was 48, and then it was easier to return and to do all the paperwork when he's there rather than trying to do it from here. So when you got everything, what he needed to do, we came. Would be his wife and new wife, which is actually to be my aunt now, and myself and my older sister, Yolanda. So we left our town in May 11th. I remember these days because every day was somebody's birthday. May 11th was Clara, his wife's birthday, which would be my aunt. We left. We went to Boston because we had some relatives, my grandmother's relatives were there. We stayed in Boston for 20 days, went to Philadelphia. From there, we took the train for Philadelphia, went to Chicago. We came all the way 3 days by train to King Station in Seattle. 3 days on a train. And there we stayed with his mom and dad, lived what's called Georgetown today, here in Seattle. And we had a house right next door to his mom and dad. That's where I lived till we moved to what's called Beacon Hill. And that's where I went to school at Cleveland High School. I went to school at St. George first. I don't think you know what that is, but it's in Seattle.
Yeah.
St. George. And then I went to Cleveland. It's called Cleveland. And I graduated from there in 1958. I'll tell you about that. Why I know your uncle, George. Joe.
Yes.
Because I went to school with them. So went to school at Cleveland, and during school, I would go to work after school. But the problem was, when I came from Italy and started school here, they put me 2 years behind. I won't go into that, it's a long story. So when I realized by the time I graduated, I would be 2 years ahead of everybody else. And I said, no way I'm going to go to school till I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
I was already working after school every day anyway. So I don't know what gave me the guts not just leave. Like most people just left, never came back from school. You never heard from them. They just leave. And it isn't like today, they want to know why. They didn't care. You don't want to go to school, it's your problem. But I decided I would go. One day I decided to go, and everybody had a girl's advisor, at school. And her name was Mrs. Whitaker. I just walked in her office and I said, Mrs. Whitaker, I'm going to leave school. She says, what? What are you talking about? Anyway, I sat down and I explained that I was put behind because we didn't know how to speak English. They just shoved you in a class. They give you a book. See Jane Run, that's about it. Nobody give you a hand, the alphabet. It doesn't matter. They weren't equipped for foreigners in those days. You just have to make the best of it. And anyway, I said to her, in my little English that I knew, I'm not going to stay in school. I'm going to be 18 when I graduate. I mean 20, and that's too old. I am not going to be in school. And she says to me, can you come back in about an hour? Okay. So I'm back in an hour. She had all my records from, you know that the school keeps the records on you. You know that, don't you?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. She says, from all I've been reading here, there's no one that any teachers that all they can write is, everything's, so good about you. I don't want you to do that. And she says, what if I help you? Help me with how? She says, what if I help you make up credits? I said, okay. I can do 2 years. She says, can't do 2 years. How about 1 year? And I thought about it, Okay, I said, I don't know what made me say okay. I did agree. She says, I'll help you make up enough credits for 1 year if you stay in school. So we did it. She worked, she was going to send me to summer school, and I was going to make up credits for the 2 years. But when she said to me, you're going to go to Lincoln, I got up at the desk. I said, okay, that's final. I'm not going there. Well, there's no other place. I said, I'm not going to Lincoln. That's where all the dummies that don't graduate. I'm not going there. Okay? She says, but I have no other place to send you. I says, I'm going to Broadway. You don't know what Broadway is, do you? Broadway is Seattle Community College today. Used to be an adult school. And she says, but that's an adult school. This is a public school. I didn't understand what that meant. I says, but I don't care. I'm going over there. But that's an adult. I have no jurisdiction over there. I said, well, my mother, meaning Clara, went over there to get her citizenship paper. You had to go to school in those days.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not today. Today you just go take a pledge of allegiance. That's it. Today you have to know all the Constitution, everything. Anyway, so I said, and my sister went there. I'm going there too. But she says, I can't help you. Oh, I don't care. I says, I'm going to do it myself. So she gave me an early dismissal from Cleveland. Took 2 buses. Actually took 3. You have to change buses. 3 to go from Cleveland to Capitol Hill. And it was before noon. And I walked into the office, said, I know it says principal. So I walked in, and I said, I came to see the principal. He says, do you have an appointment? I said, no. Well, they're at lunch. Can you make an appointment? I said, no, I'll just wait. So I sat on a stool, I stood, and I waited, and all of a sudden, this man comes in, and he had a hat on, and he headed for where it says principal. I said, that's gotta be the principal. So I got up, and I stepped in front of him, and I said, Mr. So-and-so, whatever his name was. It had a name on the door. And I said, I'm so-and-so, and I came here to ask you if I could come to this school. And he's looking at me like, yeah? What are you asking me for? I said, but I'm going to high school right now, and I can't come here because this is an adult school, and I'm not an adult. But I want to come here because I have to make up credits. Anyway, I went da-da-da-da-da. I don't even remember what I said. I really don't. How I got the guts to do that. And he looks at me like, young lady, I remember those words. You got spunk. That word, I didn't even know what that meant. You got spunk. I'm going to make an exception. You can come here. Oh, I went like this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And he tells the girl there at the desk, the secretary, write her a slip. I get that slip of paper in my hand. I take 3 buses, go back to school. I sit down in front of her, and Mrs. Whitaker, here. She looks at me and she goes, how'd you do that? She says, just did. And she gets up from her chair and she says to me, one thing I'm going to tell you, young lady, if you say one word to anyone about this, I'm going to pull you out of school and work. Because I used to work after school. I mean, I used to go to work every day. I used to get a half a credit in those days. Anyway, I said, I promised that I would not say anything because everybody else would want to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, Monday, I went to Broadway. Finished Broadway. Friday, Monday, I went back to Cleveland. Finished there. Went back and did another. I finished, I got enough credits to graduate 1 year early. So I was supposed to have graduated in 1959, but I graduated with class in 58, and they're all shocked. Why, what are you doing with our class? Why are you graduating with us? Especially George. Especially George. Oh, yeah, if I could just tell you stories about George. I was in charge of this, called there's committees there in the school that I'm sure you did the same thing. I was in charge of the lockers committee. I had to unlock all the locks before. We used to have lockers and doors with locks. So 10 minutes before the bell would ring, I'd have to go and open all those doors. And they picked me up one day and shoved me inside a closet this big. That was your uncle, George. And they locked me in. The custodian came and got me out. Yeah, that was George. Anyway. School was very good to me. I had, all I can say, now I can see why people say, if it wasn't for this teacher, if it wasn't for that teacher, my teachers were very good.
Yeah.
90% of the time, if I had lunch, if I ate lunch, which I never did, because you have to have money to buy lunch. If I did have money to buy lunch, I was wasted. There was my history class after lunch, and if about 10 minutes after I'd be, that my head would go down and I'd be asleep. You know what? They never sent me to the vice principal. They just let me sleep. I mean, they were very good. So anyway, I graduated in 58, and I had it 1 year ahead of. And I went to work for Gay Seattle French Bakery. It was a big company, a bread company here in Seattle in those days. I lied about my age. I think I was about 13 and a half, 14 years old when I started working there, and I even left. And I would work after school. Anyway, when I graduated, everybody was going to work for Boeing's, and I wanted to go work for Boeing's too. I was going to apply at Boeing's. I had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend. Her and I, she was going to go to work, apply there, so was I. And they offered her, I forgot, they offered her a job. And I was, where I worked there, the owner, Henry Gay, owned, and Phil Gay owned Gay's Bakery at the time. They offered me a job to work for them. I used to do all the orders for the bakery and sell at the store. Basically, I was a floor lady, whatever you call that. I couldn't go home till everything was done, and they kept getting bigger and bigger, and getting later and later. And I just go home at night. Anyway, they offered me a job with them, same amount of money, to stay with them and work at the office. They ordered it at the office, and I did that instead of going to work for Boeing's, until I had Tina, my first daughter. Didn't know how to drive yet. Took the bus everywhere. But when I got married, I met my husband. That's a long story, but anyway, I learned how to drive. By that time, I had had Tina, and I quit before I had Tina. I was sicker than a dog during pregnant. I think I was over the toilet more than I was working. I said, that was it. That was it. Anyway, so that's up to there. What else did you want to know?
Quali tradizioni italiane segui ancora?
Oh, well, I have to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever thought of a tradition. I still do the same thing that I probably, without knowing there were traditions, I still raise my kids the way, I shouldn't say the way I was raised, because I didn't really have anybody other than my grandma. I just cooked the same way I knew, I thought myself how to cook, what I've seen, and I raised them the same way that I saw, that I grew up with. Not that I knew any better, it's just what I grew up with. And so I raised them the same way. To be honest with you, they were embarrassed of me when I was younger. Because, number one, I cooked different. I cooked from scratch. And I didn't open a can of soup. I didn't bake sandwiches with peanut butter and jelly and bologna. I made it with everything from homemade bread, everything. They didn't want that. They wanted to be like the rest of the kids, right? But their mother cooked different. I cooked from scratch. I didn't open a Campo soup. I made homemade soup.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove a Cadillac. They were embarrassed. So don't come and pick us up here, Mom. Go around the corner. Pick us up around the corner. So anyway, and I had, to them I had, not to them, but the rest of the people, I was different. I had an accent.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it didn't bother me. It's okay, it's who I am. I'm not changing because of you, I'm not changing. So I brought them up to what was normal to me. And they grew up with that. And to this day, at dinner time, the dad worked sunrise to sundown, but on Saturday and Sunday, that was the only time for us to be together to eat and breakfast. So we'd have a huge breakfast Saturday morning or Sunday, because that's the only time we could all be together. And I would always make everything. Anyway, they were brought up. That's how we always ate together, because at nighttime, my husband, he would work so late because being construction, and I'm sure your grandpa the same, working so late at the store and all that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I would make the kids wait till the dad got home. When we're gonna eat? Mom, we're not gonna eat, we're hungry. So I would give them something to eat when they come home from school, and then I would make them wait till he got home so we could sit down every night to eat together. You know what? They're still doing that today. They all eat together.
Yeah.
Not even now, my son, one of them, he likes to eat big breakfast in the morning. One liked to eat big breakfast, the other one would rather sleep till noon. But so Mark, he makes breakfast for the kids, pancakes, he makes everything. Because that's his thing in the morning, he likes to eat nice breakfast. My other son, are you kidding? He'd rather sleep till noon. But now, if he's got to get up early, he's got a golf game, Tea time? Oh, he's up. He's up. Anyway, things that you know. So your kids actually, they do the same thing that they've seen at home. Not because you're trying to do a trend. It's just the way they see you, how you interact, how your mom and dad work, how you are around the house, whose jobs, parts of the job, who does what, who handles what. They saw that inside. It was just me taking care of them, and whatever I said went. And they were more afraid of me than their dad, because their dad, they ripped them around the spanker. He said, whatever your mom says is fine, right? So, and he took care. I never have to worry about outside. He took care of outside. Anything that I never called a repair service, I never called anybody to fix anything, the plumbing, electrical, sewers, anything. He would take care of all that. And anyway. And anyway, so, and that's what they have taken. They put it resourceful. They are very resourceful. Even both of them, both boys, they can operate any equipment. They can do anything. But one thing that I instilled in them, you're going to school. That's not negotiable. Because I was not. I wanted to go so bad. I enlisted and saved enough money for 1 quarter to University of Washington. I had to take 3 buses. I attended there, but I could never make it on time because I could never get off work unless I got my work done. It's not like you work 8 hours job. It's till I got the work done. And they kept getting it bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I wasted that money, and I couldn't make classes. That was hard. So I told my kids, you're going to school no matter what. But they wanted to do it on their own anyway. That's one thing that they had, we're going to go to school. And I never had to that's one thing I never had to do. I never had to tell my kids to do their homework. They'd come home from school, that was the rule. Get something to eat, do your homework, and then who's got piano lessons, who's got soccer, who's got baseball, who's got everything going on. So after that, dinner time, I don't care what you do in between, dinner time is dinner time, and you better be here. And all their friends would come at dinner time. The table was full every night with one of the friends, always eating, and we loved it. We loved it. I missed this so much when they went to school. The first time I cried was just 2 of us at the table, when the table would be full of kids. Anyway, but I loved it. Their friends are still our friends today. They come and see me when they're in town, they'll come and see me. I still keep in contact with them. Anyway, so it's okay. And they're doing that with their kids. And that's what I like to see.
Quali lezioni importanti ti hanno insegnato i tuoi genitori?
First of all, I really didn't have any parents teaching me anything, because I didn't know my father until he got back from the army at 45. And 90% of the time I wasn't home, I was working. My mother died when I was young, so I really didn't have anybody that teach me anything. The only one that I remember that is my grandma. And I remember to this day, a few of the things that she said to me. You eat soup with the spoon going outward, so you don't slurp in front of people. Now remember, we come from a small town. You didn't set the table for all those people. Okay. But she was trying to teach me lessons. You don't sweep the kitchen when people are there. at night, because by doing that, you're sweeping them away. You're telling them to leave. You don't do that. She's the one that just about taught me everything.
Quanti anni avevi quando sei venuta in America? Cosa ricordi?
We left in May 1950. We arrived in Naples. We left from Naples and we crossed the Mediterranean 3 days. We passed Gibraltar, and after that was in Mediterranean. Nobody got sick on the ship. God, for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the ship. I think it was Saturnia. But anyway, from Naples to Lisbon or Portugal, there's a strait there you have to go through. 3 days. No problem. Nobody got sick. We had the time of our life. I remember one of the, what do you call the guy that work on the take care of the rooms? What do you call them? They were men. Stewards.
Yeah.
Anyway, they would say to us, "Hey, young girls, have fun now because you're not going to be. It won't be the same when we go through the Atlantic. Oh, we're fine. Nobody's going to get sick. We're fine." Oh my God! The minute we left Gibraltar, it took 6 days, and 6 days of hell.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so sorry for those people that work there because they was throwing. We didn't have pills in those days. The ships didn't have stabilizers, and you didn't take anything to make your motion sickening. We never made it to the room. We just throw up in the middle of the hall. Oh, it's awful, awful. 6 days. Finally we landed on solid ground. Ellis Island. Oh my God. First time I saw a black person. I was so petrified because he came to get our luggage, and first of all, they were ransacked. They had taken everything we were carrying here in the U.S. We had salami, we had prosciutto, we had cheese, we had all of it. We had everything. They took everything. Anyway, there's no place you can go to say, where is it? It's awful to say because I feel like I'm discriminating, but I didn't know any better. He came in like this to grab our luggage, and their hands were lighter inside than here. They were different color. And I thought, oh my goodness, look at that. Their hands are lighter up here than here. They got too much sun here and not enough here. Anyway, we took the train, like I said, 3 days from to here. And then when we got here, we had, my father bought a home right next to his father. And so they worked, and I went to work after school every day. After that, after school, like I said, when I graduated in 58. I got married in 1960, 2 years after. I met Mondo, and we got married October 29, 1960, here in Seattle.
Qual è il tuo piatto italiano preferito da cucinare?
Basically, I cook what your family likes to eat, right? So I basically cook just about anything in Italian, to be honest with you. You heard that people think I'm a good cook.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like to make homemade pasta because my husband, if you ask him what he wants, the only thing he will tell you, oh, spaghetti meatballs. I get tired of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I cook just about any, I like to make chicken soup homemade. homemade noodles. I like to make ravioli, homemade chicadelles. I don't know if you know what that is. It's handmade pasta that you do like this with your fingers. Most Italians, old folks, they know how to do that. Gnocchis. I make gnocchis a lot. Just about any. Now I'm into making bread. I make bread, I make focaccia, I make pizzas, you name it. And now we have a garden, you know that. I don't know if you know, yes, if you go outside, there's no garden there yet, it's too early.
Yeah.
We haven't even turned the dirt yet.
Mhm.
We need to turn the dirt a couple times. Now we got a greenhouse that we are starting our own plants, our own little, seeds from seeds, right? Because Mando's done tomato seeds, bean seeds, pepper seeds, and Carbonito. I don't know if you know who they are, Carbonito in Kent. You remember that? And so we give the seeds to them, and they make raise plants, and then we plant them in the garden. Tomatoes, peppers, beans, lettuce, zucchinis, any type of Swiss chard, onions, corn galore. We stage the corn so they come up every, not all at one time.
Mhm.
Otherwise you can't eat them all at one time. So every 2 weeks we plant some more. And so we have corn and lots and lots of tomatoes and lots of peppers. Different kinds of onions. So we start with lettuce, bib lettuce, and all the herbs you want.
Mhm.
Basil, parsley, oregano, chives, thyme, lavender, mint, you name it.
È stato facile fare amicizia dopo l'immigrazione.
Per me non tanto. Per me era un po' più difficile quando era piccola, ok? Quando era piccola, 11 anni, quando era arrivata, 11 anni, ci avevano no amici e non sapevo parlare americano, loro anzi ti voglio dire, noi all'Italia, how do you say that? We had earrings. Mio nonno mi ha fatto earrings.
Mhm.
Quando sono tornata, quando siamo andata qua all'America, nessuno avevano earrings, come si dice, earrings, le ragazze a quegli anni. E io non me lo vado, perché non volevo vedere che io avevo gli earrings. Poi dopo tempo, adesso, come si dice, my hole plugged up and I had to reopen them again. But io poco, come si say, how you learn the language, you begin to make friends. And in school, ho fatto amici alla scuola e quei amici anche oggi ci parlano. Chi sta a New Jersey, chi sta a California, ma noi chiamiamo ogni anno, mi chiamano, ehi, io ho ricevuto la carta, ma io ti chiamo, come stai? E come quando ci hai parlato ieri, io ho tanti amici di tutti l'America, l'Italia, ci parlano, come si dice, io li chiamo gli amici sempre, mi viene a trovare sempre, io vado a vedere loro, sono andata all'Italia a vedere i miei cugini, le mie zie, il mio zio, adesso non ci stanno più zio, sono morto. Ma C'ho tanto cugini e loro hanno venuto qua a vedere. Io ho tanti cugini a Toronto, tanti all'Australia e loro sono venuti qua e io ho andato anche all'Australia e come si dice, e tanti amici che solo una cugina che abita all'America, abita a Maryland, Washington. Tutti gli altri stanno a Canada, Toronto, all'Australia, Lilydale, Vancouver, BC. Anyways, c'ho tante famiglie e cugini, amici all over.
Come è iniziato il torneo di bocce e cosa significava per te?
Okay, the bocce tournament, I'm glad you said that because that's a big part of my husband's life. It's before your time. Italy, Seattle, or U.S. has an organization. It's called Sons of Italy. Okay. This organizations you belong to. If you're Italian or your spouse is Italian, you belong to. So every year here in Seattle, they would do functions, especially at the month of October, was Columbus Day. So we had just moved to this house. We moved here, by the way, in 1967. My daughter Tina started first grade. The house wasn't quite finished, so we lived on the lower level till we finished the upper level. And we had this backyard, no grass or nothing, and they start playing, the older generation start playing bocce. And they were just playing on the lawn. And it just started just like that. Pretty soon, my husband thought, well, tired of playing just on dirt. So he built the court that we have today. And we started little by little. And so the Sons of Italy was having functions. So we sponsored one day on a Sunday to do the bocce tournament for that Sons of Italy. And we did that quite a few years. Okay. But after that, I don't know. I think I got the wisp that we were doing this. I don't know. I didn't like the idea what they were saying that I was doing just for my friends. So then I thought, okay, no Sons of Italy. This is just for us. It started small, but it just kept on growing. Every year got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I cannot tell you how many years. I moved here in 67. So from then on, I wouldn't call them tournaments in those earlier years, but from then on, it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And we're talking about 200, 300, 400 people. Okay. And so I would say to my husband, Wanda, I don't think I can do this anymore. It came to light, and I knew how much it meant to him. It came to light one year, my grandson got sick. I told Mondo, I says, I can't do it. I don't have my heart into it. Don't ask me how to do it. I can't do it. I can't put it together. I can't do it because I'm the one that does all the work. He just shows up. He thinks he just gets done all by himself, but it takes me months of prep work, months ahead of time, to get it all to come together for one day. He thinks it just materialized all by itself. And I said, I can't, my heart isn't in it, don't ask me to do it. Oh, please, you don't have to do it. I have so much. Just scale it down. The guys will help you. But if you could just don't have to do Mafalda style. That's ridicule. And I said, no, I can't. My heart isn't in it. Anyway, I says, I have to think about it. Please don't ask me. And so in the middle of the night, I had one of those aha moments. I said, I'm going to do it. But this year, they're going to pay. All these years, in the past 40, I don't know how many years, nobody paid anything. They would just pay $50 each person that played in the tournament, the guys. But they got their money back. They paid from first to fourth place. That was just for them. I never saw a penny of that. But the rest of it, it was on me. Now think about it. All these years that I've had it, he's never asked me once, what did it cost? Yeah, I don't think he wanted to know. And I wasn't about to tell him. I mean, we're talking about breakfast. Oh, I mean, you start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would get up at 5 in the morning and turn all the coffee pots on, or big urns of coffee pot. The guys would come here half asleep. There was bagels, fruit, coffee, punch, drinks, orange juice, whatever. It was all for them in the morning. And then lunchtime, sandwiches, pizzas, you name it, okay? And then it came dinner. I don't know if you were too small probably to remember. I don't know if you've been when you were older. But just that, look at some of your pictures your grandfather has, or your dad. The table was from one end from there to the other end where the steps are. I'd have tables all the way down with, you name it, pasta, salmon that the guys would go fishing in Alaska. They would bring me. One time I had 37 fillet of salmon. We barbecued outside. Sausages, meatballs, beans, peppers. I would fry peppers the whole day Saturday, because no matter how many peppers I cooked, they were gone. Anyway, that was fun. I did have a lot of people helping me, because you can't put on something like that no. The biggest one was when I did Jake's for the benefit. Like I said, they brought all their kids, and, families with their kids, bouncy houses, coffee stand, pizza trucks, ice cream truck, you name it. Okay, I had some ladies that painted all their faces, the kids' faces, like
I remember.
Yeah, remember? I don't know if you remember that. Machine. You remember that, the big machine? Yes. One year, of all these years, I have never had any accident. But one year, somebody was upstairs watching, because it could have been catastrophic. A gust of wind picked up one of the bouncy houses, and it started flying upward. And I remember his name was this young kid. He's died now. He jumped into the house, and I happened to be up there at the time, not in the lower level, but I happened to be up there, and I jumped into the house and yelling and screaming at the kids, get out, to get out. We got them all out. Thank God. This kid, oh, thank God for him. He jumped in there and screaming to get all the kids out, and we tied the bouncy house back down. It could have been fatal, fatal. Fatal. But anyway, and then another time, of all these years, only one girl in the kitchen cut her finger, and she had to be brought in to have stitches done.
Oh no.
She was cutting something, I don't know what she was cutting, avocado, and she's cut it wrong. Anyway, she cut her finger. Not bad, but she had to go in emergency.
Yeah.
But other than that, all those people, all those kids, everybody was fine. We had a hell of a time. But now for Jake's, I said, I thought I would be, people wouldn't come. I had more people than ever. I don't know where I put over 500 people here. I raised over 100,000. That's quite a few years ago for Children's Hospital. Every penny went there. I even had coins. Little kids were giving 25 cents. Let's say they had whatever they had in their pockets, they would donate that. And I turned all that into checks and cash to Children's Hospital in a big bag. I got a little plaque, 8 by 11 sign, a plaque at Children's Hospital at the, I think it's the 4th floor where Jig used to get his chemo. Anyway, that was, after that I just said, Mondo, please, don't make me do this. I was getting too old. The work that it takes, you can't have no idea. And then after, you gotta clean this up. He goes, the guys will help you. They'll just don't have to have everybody else, just the guys. They did it for quite a few years by themselves, instead of having the whole community come over with kids and all, just them. They did it for quite a few years. I still helped them, but it wasn't no more to the length amount of people that I used to have. My body just gave out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it anymore. And then he wasn't feeling that well. So it started to dwindle down, just like life changes, kiddo.
Yeah.
Your body will tell you what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are. Yeah, can't do it anymore. He's 92, he's gonna be 93. Well, think about it, how many years. I've seen the kids grow up. Look at those pictures I have on the wall. They're little kids like this, and you were just like this when I remember your dad. One of those pictures, if I look back, I think it's you or your uncle or somebody is holding a little kid in their lap because you were too small to be with, trying to gather all these kids from one picture, like herding cats.
No, literally.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody, but get your kids up there, get your kids up there, get your kids up there. But it was so much. I think it was the fun of being together with everybody. Every year you watch these kids, and all of a sudden they're this size, and now they're this size.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't know if you can compare that with anybody else, because to see that community, so many people coming together, just they actually lived for that day, and they would tell their friends, and their friends would tell their friends, and so they would just come over because I never sought an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
I never called anybody. I never sent, say you're invited or you're not invited. It was open to anyone that wanted to come, and it was. They watched some games. Some games went on till 12 o'clock at night. It depends how many teams there are. Sometimes there were so many teams. Process of elimination, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And the wives and the kids were still there. Come on, you guys, finish. When are you going to finish? And anyway, we have a lot of memories, a lot of pictures of that. It's too bad that we didn't have movie cameras in those days to take all that in.
Yeah.
What sad. I'm looking at some of those pictures, and because when we did this book now for Mondo, Live Untold,
Mm-hmm.
and we're looking through all those budget tournaments, and I kept saying, oh my God, he's gone, he's not here, he's gone. Oh, well, how many years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people haven't had that in their life, the tournament. And it wasn't just bocce, it was the getting together with your friends and the friends' friends and their families and all the kids. This is the thing. You can go to somebody's house, but sometimes you don't feel like you want to bring your kids to make a mess or something. My God, they had the whole outside here.
Yeah.
and you know, and it was fine.
Mhm.
And they could just let the kids loose, and nobody cared because they're not going to go any place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the parents had a good time visiting with friends, catching
Mhm.
up. Everybody was having they. That's one thing I can say. It was so enjoyable. Uh, my husband, I mean, he was like in another world. He loved it so much that it didn't. When I was telling him I couldn't do it anymore, he was going, "Hey, they'll help you. Just let's do another year. They'll just everybody was willing to help you." And I knew they were. The budget guys were always willing to help. They would come over the day before Saturday, help me set up tables, set up tents because you don't know what the weather's going to be,
Mhm.
and set up you know, whatever they could do. They were always willing to help. But I couldn't take it anymore. My body was just didn't have the energy. It didn't have the energy to do all that work.
Yeah.
You needed an army. You know what they say? You need to do something for others. You need not just a few people, but you need the whole community to work. I mean, when I did Jake's, I had so many people helping me and so many donations. Your grandpa, I don't know how much work he's helped me with. I cannot tell you. If everyone who donated sausages, Isornio donated sausages, Mark Carpenito donated corn, peppers, you name it. Another person that was in the wholesale donated gallons and gallons of tomato sauce. I made. I started 3 weeks before making tomatoes because who not anybody who undertook something like this is out of their freaking mind.
Yeah.
Number one, first of all, you have to be nuts to do something like that. Every details
Yeah.
that has to be taken care of, and I'm making gallons and gallons of sauce because I'm cooking pasta outside for 500 people.
Yeah.
Now that I think back, I think was I out in the right mind? No. The only time I actually lost it, it was the Saturday before the tournament. I had ordered ovens to keep the pasta warm
Mhm.
and pots, large pots, to cook the pasta. Because I had butane things that outside to boil the pasta. They sent me uh, pots that I use for Sunday dinner at home.
Oh.
I thought, what? What am I gonna do with these things? This is what I use for Sunday dinner. And then I start freaking out. How am I gonna cook all these 100 pounds of pasta and I don't have any pans? And so thank God a friend of mine sent somebody to looking for, this is the day before. I literally was losing it. A friend of mine tried to calm me down. Calm down, it'll be okay. No, it's not gonna be okay. How am I gonna cook this pasta?
Mhm.
Anyway, they went to Restaurant Supply and they found two huge pots, this size, this size. We had them out there on the lawn, cooking pasta all day long.
Wow.
And I had the sauce made, all that sauce made. Oh, salmon, how many slabs of salmon, cooking, barbecuing it outside, and how many peppers, we cooked pounds of peppers. I don't know,
Insane.
I know.
Yeah.
If you look at some of those pictures, you see how many chefing dishes I have on the table?
Mhm.
But anyway, yep, I did. I asked a lot of people to help me. I had some really good people that I put some people to cook pasta that knew how to cook pasta. Sophia that had a restaurant. I had Sophia help me. Josephine Di Pietro, they knew how to cook. So
Yeah.
I had them to help me cook. That's an undertaking that I think to myself back, how did I have the energy first of all, and the know-how that how it was going to come out. Because I even had to think, okay, I need a big spoon. Have big wooden spoon this big.
Yeah.
To stir. To stir the pasta. You don't
Yeah,
you
like,
don't go buy that. You don't go to the store to buy those things. Oh my God.
Jeez.
I know.
What was it like in Italy during the war?
Okay. Now you have to remember, these are just visions that I have, still memories that I still have. The reason I was too young to understand why things were happening, what they were, but I do remember. We were, now that I look back, we were given 3 days, the town was, to evacuate. And so by that means, and I remember being in the winter time because it was snowing, we had to leave our house and go to whatever you can. So you go to most people would have a place where they planted wheat, corn, because that's what we raised to feed ourselves in those days. We planted our wheat for flour. We'd plant our corn for cornmeal, and and that's what grew in where I come from, because it's kind of high altitude. We have, by the way, Abruzzi has the best wheat in the world. If you can look that up. Anyway, so we would go. Of course, there was no shelter, and we were fortunate. My family was fortunate, I think, because we had. Two uncles. I had two uncles that had just come back from the Spanish War. And so between them and my aunts and my grandpa, my grandma, but of course my grandma and grandpa were old by then. So they built this shelter. I don't know how it's humanly possible, but they built shelter just enough for us to get in and survive the cold out of rocks. Okay, it's fine for the walls, but how do they build the roof? No mortar. I don't know how it was done, okay? I was too young to know. But this much I remember. We carried mattresses. We had a horse and a donkey. And they carried the mattress, whatever we could, on our backs, on whatever, okay? And I remember putting the mattresses on the floor, and the grandkids, they put the grandkids down, but you couldn't lay down with your back. You had to lay on the side so that one person moved, everybody had to move because there was no room. And then they put the little ones on the foot of the bed. And I remember my poor grandma, there was a crate. She sat on a crate next to the fire. And in the middle of it was, they built a fire so you could boil water so they could feed the kids, basically us, all the cousins. Oh my, I was probably the third oldest one, and there was a lot of cousins. Anyway, they were boiling water, but as the heat rose, water was dripping all over the place, and they were trying to catch it with the little buckets or whatever pans they might have. Finally, I remember my uncle saying to Pop, we got to get out of here because the snow is gonna crumple. It's gonna fall. We've got to get out of here. And anyway, I remember the next thing. I remember now how we got all this stuff out. I don't remember that part. But I remember walking up this hill, and it snowed so much in those days, we didn't have jeans. We didn't have pants. Dresses. in those days, old folks used to wear long skirts down to their ankle. And my poor grandma, uh, anyway, she's trying to in the snow with this skirt because I was too young. I would fall in. And so my uncle, one of my uncles, being I remember, Dad was not there. He was prisoner by this time. He's the prisoner of war in Libya, unbeknown to us at the time, because you didn't know where they were unless they said you got a letter or something. But anyway, my one of my uncles put me on his shoulder, and I remember screaming bloody murder to let me down, and I'm scratching his face, let me down, let me down. I have to go take care of Nonna, and Nonna, I have to take care of Nonna. I remember getting slapped in the face so hard, and him telling me, stop it. Nonna's taking care of her. Nonna's, meaning Nonno is the grandpa. Nonna is the grandma. And anyway, and he says, no, la sta guardando, non c'ho paura, no paura, no paura. And I didn't care, I was too young. I just screamed. Anyway, we reached the railroad up on there was a railroad. And in Italy, there's a casello, it's called casello. Every so many kilometers, they have a casello. Casello means it's a little house, and it's run by government. And the government has a family that puts in those little casello that takes care so many kilometers this way and so many kilometers that way. And this casello happened to be there, and they took us in for the night. And to be honest with you, I remember my poor grandma sitting next to the fire trying to keep me warm because we were all, by this time, we're all wet with snow. And I don't remember how long those people kept us in, but it was long enough that I remember must have been spring because my nonno and nonna were walking by a railroad, and we were hiding underneath kind of like a cave, kind of like, and there was a pasture underneath, and we could see our horses grazing on this grass, and there was spots of still snow here and there, so it must have been still spring because once it snows around there, it doesn't go away till spring. And I remember Germans going by there looking at those horses, and they had bayonets. And I remember screaming that they're going to take their horses, they're going to take our horses. So I put my hand in my mouth, quiet, you know, they're going to take our lives. At the time, I didn't understand that, but they took our horses. And anyway, and then later on, I don't remember, uh, we must have got back into our house. We were allowed back into our house. And when we left, all the family, my mother's family, the other sons, they were married. They brought all their whatever they could into my grandfather's house, and there was one room on the lower level where they put all whatever they had, you know, the furniture, whatever, they shoved it in all there, but you couldn't carry it. You had to leave your home because it was bombs coming from all over the place. So they built a wall, a brick, to close it off. And I remember my uncles bearing, you know, in Italy you survive, you don't go to the store every day, okay? There's no Kmart's or anything to go to the store. You just, whatever flour you made, whatever cornmeal you made, whatever fat you had, meat, you raised a pig the whole year. That was your meat and lard for the whole year. Okay, you had your flour that you grew, and you had it mint when the machine came over in the fall. You had to bring your grain there to be ready to make flour. Okay, so you had that, and you had your cornmeal. That's what you lived on. And the pork, that was your meat. That was your fat. Oil was very scarce because you had to buy oil, unless you went in the south. But so we made sausages, right? Like your grandpa makes sausages, right? We made sausages. But they buried in the big crocks with lard, melted lard. That's what preserves them, right? They buried them in the backyard, and they dug holes and they buried them underground. And they put weeds and grass on top so you couldn't tell. When we were gone through all this time, if I had to guess how long we were gone, 3, 4 months, I don't remember. The only recollection I have is that with snow, and then the snow was gone. So I'd say 3 months. Uh, when we got back home, there was nothing there, but we did have those sausages. They didn't find them, but they saw the fresh brick, the fresh. Uh, they broke into it, and everything was gone. They stole everything. I thought all those years that the Germans had taken it. But I remember asking one time, I said, why would soldiers care about furniture? Why would they steal that stuff? And I remember Claudia was her name. She says, that wasn't them. It was our own people that stole everything we had. They broke into it because it was fresh paint, and they broke into it. Um, but those were the days that you you made do with what you had. You bartered with the neighbor had a chickens. You say, I'll give you this for an egg. If they had something else, milk, then you say, I'll give you this, and that's how you survived. That's after the war. That's why you'll find that 90% of the men left and went to all over the place to find work, and I say 50% never returned.
Mm-hmm.
They just and the wives are still waiting for them.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's. I remember when the Germans came over, they took over our house. We had, to be honest with you, compared to the rest of the house, our house was a pretty nice house in that town.
Mm-hmm.
It had a backyard. Very seldom people had yards in those days. They didn't have, because the houses were attached to one another. But where we lived, a house had a little backyard. We had almond trees and walnut trees. And in the backyard, you could see the road that came up from the other town. It was a town called, a city a little bigger than ours, Sulmona. If you look on the map, you'll see it's actually on the map, where they make confetti, by the way, all over the world, the confetti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it comes from Sulmona. And anyway, they set up their guns, artillery there in the backyard. I still remember that to this day. And they blew that road up to pieces so that nothing could come up there. I remember them holding, one soldier was holding me on his arm like this, and I remember him saying, pretty ice, and giving me chocolate. I never had chocolate in my whole life. That's the first time I had tasted chocolate. They took over our town, and they took over our home, especially because it was they knew what they were doing, and they wanted that space to blow that road up. And they did. They, you're lucky if you find homestanding when you got back. 90% of them weren't.
Mm.
Yeah, our what I call La Stalla. La Stalla is a stable
Mhm.
where your animals are kept, and it was 3 levels. And the middle level, oh, they made it where my mother, before she died, she used to be a seamstress. Her father bought her the first Singer sewing machine. You're too young to know, but you look it up. Treadle,
Mhm.
like that, you know.
Yeah.
And she used to do embroidery. And so that sewing machine and everything she did, they stored it away. So, but everything was stolen. But the top was all blown up. It was all blown up, all blown. We're lucky that some of ours wasn't that bad damaged. So we were able to go back
Mhm.
and, just make do with what you got.
Cosa ti manca dall'Italia?
When I left there, I didn't know any better the beauty, the culture, the history of Italy. It was just a matter of surviving after the war. There was no jobs, nothing, no prosperity. So I didn't look at it that way. But now, going back, that I've gone back a few times, quite a few times, I see so much beauty and so much that I didn't know at the time I was there. And of course, I've missed my relatives. I have a lot of cousins there.
Do you go back and visit them?
I have, yes, I have. I go back and visit them, and they have come here also. And so and my kids have gotten to know them very well. They actually have gone there more than I have to visit them.
Wow.
And they come here. Now their kids come here. Isn't that sad? Now their kids. I know. And so this, especially in Italy, my little town where I come from, my kids are. When we went back there with Jake, we went there for a wedding, and Jake was a small kid. Anyway, in the morning, he's used to eating a big breakfast. Italians are not used to eating big breakfast. So, but my cousin, what do you want, Jake? What do you want? Well, I want eggs. And, he's used to eggs, pancakes, bacon, and all this French toast and all this stuff. Anyway, so she makes him a big breakfast even though they're not used to it. And what do you want for lunch, Jake? With chicken soup. My God, she had a small kitchen. Honest to God, I don't know how they can produce so much food.
Yeah.
The chicken was their own chickens. The eggs are like orange. They're not yellow, they're orange. She had homemade pasta, chicken soup, and I had it done in no seconds. Don't ask me how they do it. It's so good. The food is so good there. I don't know why. The food, the water, see, they don't use a lot of, they use everything fresh. And I don't know why we don't do that here.
Yeah.
They have very little refrigerators. You go to the store every morning to buy your food for the day. And every morning they go to the store and get what they need for the day. There's no such thing as going to Costco. Yeah. And everything's fresh. I mean, to them, here, my son and I have problem with gluten,
Yeah.
There, no problem. The food there, they do not use chemicals. They do not use preservatives. They don't. They buy all or here we call it organic. To them, it's just normal life. It's
Yeah.
just normal life, okay? And they grow their own vegetables. The guy, his mother's side, he's got a nice big garden, and he catches the water from the roof. Water and gasoline is expensive in Italy. It's
Yeah.
expensive in Europe, period. We're lucky here in the United States. he catches the water from the roof, and he uses that water to water his garden. I'm telling you, they eat their big lunches in the afternoon, and very little in the morning. It's just a sweet roll, with coffee or something, and then big meal in the afternoon, and then very light meal at night. And they walk. They all go to andiamo a spaggiare. Let's go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so they walk it off after dinner.
Yeah.
They don't sit in front of that tube like we do. We eat, we sit in front of that. That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and and the girls there, I don't know, it's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
A different lifestyle. Let's go to passeggiata. At night, when we were there in the summertime, everybody's out
Yeah.
strolling with the kids in the 11 o'clock at night. They got kids and they're pushing with the buggy. I said, what are they doing up at this time of the night? And they're all having outside in the cafe, having their cafe, chatting, visiting with people. What a life. I miss that the most. I miss that. I don't know. The fest you have to be in Italy during September, October. They have festas there. Every town has their festa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's harvest time, first of all. And now it's more modernized, okay? But in those days, we used to, you plant corn,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to harvest that corn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to husk that corn. They would pile up the corn in the middle of the square, up that high, and all the women and people would gather around and make a circle, and you're husking that corn. And everybody, the whole town is helping. And then they grind it up for corn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would sing, they would pass time, and from one song after another. You could hear from here, and you could hear all the way around town singing. I remember that. I miss that so much.
Yeah.
Do you know, when I went back to Italy, back in the last time I went back, Estella, my granddaughter, was 4 months old. I took her with her mother. Her mother says, I want to come to Italy, because I was going for a wedding, one of my cousin's daughter's wedding. And my husband didn't want to come that year. We had been there the year before, because we left in August and his garden was full, and we left it, and when we came back, it was all picked over by people. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't going to go. I said, well, I'm going. Anyway, I went with my daughter-in-law and
Mm-hmm.
my granddaughter Stella. They thought I was nuts taking a 4-month-old. It was the best thing we've ever did.
Yeah.
Because we put her in a stroller, and she was the gateway for every place. Oh, quando bella, vieni qua, che bella figlia, vieni qua, che bellina. We get the best tables. We get, no matter where we went, we were just fine. And Jennifer had never seen so many. We were there for a wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and the town, they were having all these festas, right? They had music in the middle of the square. They had tables all set up with chairs around, and they were serving you lamb and grated cheese, shaved cheese, pieces of cheese and lamb, and you could get whatever you want to drink, and the music, live music, and people with their jackets on at night dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Old people, young people. It was awesome. It was awesome. And they had a bulletin board, and every day of activities. Saturday, Catuscio del Cancelo's wedding, my cousin's wedding. was being held that day. They had it on the whole town was at the wedding.
Wow.
The whole town was behind the procession, going to the church or going to the wedding.
Wow.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful.
It was so beautiful. I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that more than anything.
Cosa vorresti che la gente ricordasse della tua storia?
That I lived this life and I appreciate everything I have. I feel lucky that I'm fortunate I'm here.
Che bello.
Yeah.
Allora?
Allora è tempo. Allora.
Grazie di aver pensato con me.
Grazie. Mio piacere.
Ho imparato molte cose.
Grazie tanto.
Grazie mille.
Grazie.